All right. Well, this week we've changed venues given the construction that's still going on. Those of you who were on last week know I got disconnected mid-call, well, at the beginning, I suppose. So we're at our Starbucks, home away from home. So if you hear background noise, we do apologize. Hopefully we're coming through loud and clear. So if you can't hear me well enough or you need me to talk louder, just let me know and I'll start screaming at my computer here as we are. With that in mind, Brian put together a great sort of benefits analysis of all the things that you have to sell. We've been repeating these in different ways, and we wanted to go into a bit more, especially as a follow-on for the pricing and packages video that we put together. That video, which if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It's locable.com, and we can point you to it. It's all about putting together the right pricing and the right packages for the right business so that you can make more money. This is going to go into more detail about the things that you're selling and what the real value is to your clients. So with that, post any questions that you have, and we'll get to them as we run through. So the topics we're going to cover today are the usual suspects: banner ads, directory listings, sponsored content, and native advertising. Depending on your perspective, sponsored content and native advertising could be viewed as similar or overlapping, and so we'll address a few variations there. Social promotions, featured events also are a form of native, but we separate it out for some important reasons. And then you've got things like offers, coupons, deals, and even websites. And we'll talk about some interesting experiences we've had very recently on this front and how you can profit from it. I want to start by talking about banner ads. I always beat them up. Banner ads are boring to sell. You know, they're valuable when they run, and when they're over, they're not on. But they're still a part of the equation. And when your site is engaging and the ads are appearing in the right places with good messages, they are effective. And it's an important part. They're very similar in value to an ad in print. They're about communicating a clear message quickly and about engaging the reader to want more. Now, print and digital are very different in how that's executed, but the purpose is very, very similar. Make sure as you're selling, whether it's print or digital, have good calls to action. You know, without click here, get this, do that, people get excited about something and then they wander off, and you're going to see your customers without getting the type of return on investment that they would otherwise get because of a poorly executed ad. Now, on the directory front, one of the things that's, I think, pretty important to know is being present on your site is a way to reach your audience, but it's also part of a greater sort of SEO or search engine optimization strategy. So a lot of benefit to having your business present on multiple sites, including publisher sites, with link back, references to social media, even text links. Sorry, I shouldn't even say links. Even text references are useful in elevating the results in Google and so forth. But a directory listing can be much more. It can be a sales tool, and it can be a reference piece. And if you're writing articles about a business, about events, these are all links that funnel through there. And so it's all part of this process. So I really want you to take some time to promote this in print and online for those of you who are having us as your publisher concierge work in these messages via email, on social media, and whatnot. And then as you're writing your content, be sure to use this as much as you can. Seek opportunities to create content to reference directory listings. These are great ways to elevate your own SEO.
Yeah, and I'd just like to elaborate a little bit more on what Brian was saying. One thing you might hear from prospective clients is, hey, I'm already in a bunch of directories. And the thing I want you to take away from this call is that not all directories are treated the same way. As a publisher, you have the opportunity to provide additional local context to your editorial. that a directory such as Yelp or even Facebook to some extent and some of the other industry-specific directories can't do. So use that to your advantage. That's a selling point for you. When you're out there and they're like, well, I already have a directory. I was like, well, it's not the same because we can do this. We can reference you in articles. We can send out emails. We can do all this stuff on our social media profile to help you reach our audience. Other directory providers can't do that. Now, they're an important part of the strategy, but this is one thing that differentiates your directory from everyone else's.
We mentioned last week that we're working on as well giving you the ability as an admin to upgrade directory listings without a credit card. So if you're invoicing them directly or packaging it nicely, we're hoping it's going to be rolling out next week, and that will allow you to bundle in a more natural way, which should make it easier for you to sell these upgrades. I do want to stress, and we've talked about on a number of occasions, that a directory listing is much more of the factual information, whereas guides that you can create is your opportunity to editorialize. So make sure that you're leveraging guides. It will help you rank higher in Google. It'll drive you more traffic, and it'll drive to your readers as well. Now, as we transition to sponsored content, I'm going to let Ryan narrate the graphics, which I think are particularly suited for what we're talking about. But the key here is delivering value and helping your businesses, your advertisers, helping them differentiate themselves in a crowded marketplace.
Yeah, so we like to call this the plumber problem. If you're a plumber, nobody thinks about a plumber until you need them. Nobody really wants to hear about their crappy job. Thank you, Brian, for that nice pun. So how do you differentiate? And the solution that we have is value by association. So you create an article or a series of articles or a column that is brought to you by Bob's Plumbing, but is written by some third party. In this example, I'm using the SPCA. That's why we have these great cute kitten photos and a dog in the Mario Plumber's outfit. But the example might be at the top of the article, you might put a little ad that says, Bob's Plumbing, animal-friendly plumbing services when you need it. Call Bob 24 hours a day. Has the phone number again. That's a nice strong call to action. And Bob's Plumbing benefits from the association with the SPCA and the articles. Pet lovers will feel more connected with Bob. The cute kitten kind of photos and those kind of things kind of elicit the friendliness and the nurturing, someone you would want to have in your home, which is great for a plumber who's making a lot of house calls. And it will help differentiate him from the hundreds of other local plumbers when the time comes for that person to make a decision. So the idea is here there are lots of different businesses, not just plumbers, but electricians, doctors, real estate agents, lawyers, that need to remain top of mind. They don't have something specific to say all the time, but they can benefit from these associations with things that people are very interested in.
It is shocking how much people will purchase based on shared values. So any chance that a business has to stress that would be beneficial. The next thing we're going to talk about is native and the local expert sort of approach. While what we just talked about is about values alignment, this is more about their business and demonstrating local value within the context of their business. So a plumber could do, talk about what to look for in a plumber, how to prepare to winterize your home to avoid leaking pipes, things of that nature. As Ryan's added, you might have 5 tips for a sustainable garden, things to do to get in shape, and so forth. There should be content. It should be editorial, in terms of the quality of the content, but it can absolutely reinforce the expertise of that person. Now, it doesn't necessarily convert a reader into a client, but when someone is in the shopping mode and they find that content, it demonstrates value. You get to know the person before you pick up the phone, and that builds rapport. And for others, if you happen to catch someone at the very start of their purchase investigation, let's say for a fitness coach, you might be able to shortcut that whole sales cycle. So they're not going to Google, they're not asking friends. They read something, they love what you had to say, they loved your approach, they think that your experience is relevant. I'm just going to call you up directly, and you just made a sale because you're able to demonstrate who you are concisely. So don't underestimate the value that you can deliver as a publisher to a local business around this expertise. And as Ryan showed, there's events mixed in here too. Even though the events in many cases may be free, there's opportunities to make them featured, and they can tie in, even on the free level, into sponsored content and advertorial content.
So the next thing we want to talk about is how to leverage social promotions to expand advertisers' reach and help them acquire new customers. So you've heard us talk about social promotions a ton. I'm not going to go into the details of those, but for those that are new to the call, we refer to social promotions as things like sweepstakes or voting-based contests like Judas Kid. But from a values perspective, when you're talking to your advertiser, it's about a few things. First, you get this association. Just like with the sponsored content, a business can be associated with a certain kind of theme. For example, jewelers and Valentine's Day are a common association. It gives you the branding that you need as a business. It's social in nature, so friends are sharing with friends. You can see if you squint your eyes really hard that this one post on Facebook reached over 2,000 people, had, I can't even see, one share and 18 people like this. Those kind of things, every time someone hits share or like or comments or whatever, they're sharing it with their friends. And then you start to transit, those are the kind of the reach things. And now you start to transition into how does that actually translate into new customers for them. We talk about rewards for participation. This is an offer for someone to come in and spend money with your business, 10% off your next purchase, $5 off your next oil change. Every social promotion you run should offer this coupon along with the promotion for anyone who enters. That'll drive people in their door and have them spend money. And probably the most important thing out of how to leverage social promotions is you're building an email list. So every time someone enters the contest, we have the ability to capture their email address. And let's say you get 150 new email subscribers, which is actually what happened with Mansfield Magazine in a contest we ran a few weeks ago, which I think was about 10 days long. They had 150 new email subscribers. Now let's make some basic assumptions here, and I'm kind of making these numbers up. You're going to need to take them and apply them to your business to do your own kind of math. But let's say every time you send an email, 1% of the people that receive that email will buy something worth $100 each time. All right. So that means for every 150 emails you send, 1.5 people buy something worth $100. That's $150 per email. And if you send that email once per week for an entire year, that's $7,800 in revenue for you versus a $500 investment for running the social promotion. This is how you calculate ROI for social promotions, and this is how you can talk to businesses. Ask them what a customer is worth to them. Get that number. Be like, all right, would you like 100 new prospects, and how use 1%. You can do the math with them right there on the spot, and 9.9 times out of 10, it's going to be a profitable venture for them. So those are the ways you kind of use social promotions to leverage them to help your businesses and advertisers. And Brian, do you have anything to add to that? You've talked about this a ton.
I do want to stress the easiest opportunities day one for social promotions are restaurants and retailers and businesses that have sort of fun products that they can give away as part of this, and so they can both pay you and provide the prize. But with Mansfield, and actually just again today with a publisher here locally, he has tickets to, in this case, sort of a festival on Main Street, and it's a pretty big deal. And he has, I don't know, a dozen tickets or something, and he didn't know what he was going to do with them, and we said, why don't you do a social promotion? And talk to local businesses, local advertisers who don't fit the restaurant retailer category. They're going to be the insurance company, banks, the financial services of various types. They can't give away their services, but they would love to have their name with this particular event. They'd love to get the injection of social media reach, and just generally be seen as being part of the community, sort of similar to sponsored content and that values alignment. So he's going to sell that. It's Tuesday. We're going to start it on Wednesday. It'll run through Friday. It's a 3-day promotion. It's short, but that's still time to deliver some real value, and he'll make a little bit of money in the process. So don't overlook these sorts of opportunities. Now, featured events happen to be one of my favorite categories. If you've gone through a demo with me recently, you've heard me talk quite a bit about this, and there's really 3 levels of featured events. You've got the built-in featured event tool. Look at any event, and you've got a button to make it featured, and it'll show up like the ones you see in the middle of your screen. That's the baseline. You know, that's a $25, maybe a $50 value, depending on the timing and your traffic and so forth. But other levels, like writing a preview article or a recap article with a gallery or video, or going even further and layering in a social promotion. And what these do is they allow you to get paid, having lots of great content that people actually want, because events, locals love events, and so it's a really true win-win. And if you happen to have museums or galleries or theaters or other venues, you can sell this as a sort of subscription where they pay you, say, $200, $300, $400. They get a bundle of previews, recaps, shares on social media, shares on email, maybe even once a month or every month your social promotion. And now you've got yourself a nice steady revenue stream while also driving content. I haven't even talked about the print side, but you can absolutely go further and you can couple it with print. So don't dismiss this because you get the benefit of content. And there's a number of ways to execute this with email newsletters. So if you have any specific questions, let us know. You can do featured events. Some folks like the sound of 3 to see, so they'll highlight 3 events in town, that sort of.
So I'd just like to add one quick thing, and this slide in particular is kind of meant to be a menu of your different options. We're not suggesting that every time you feature an event you have to do all of these things, but the keys are make the event prominent on your site and repurpose and reuse content. So, for example, you might post an article that has upcoming events for the weekend. You can reuse that in an email. You can reuse that as a social share. It's not reinventing the wheel every time. So yeah, I think in this case in particular, it's all about having multiple touch points and getting the name out.
Sorry, I forgot to mute myself on that go. I'll try to continue to do that to reduce the echo. We don't have a built-in sort of quote-unquote coupon system. But it doesn't mean you can't do coupons for special offers or deals or whatnot. As Ryan shows you here, one of our publishers is doing a nice job combining sort of banner ads with pages and graphics on the page to highlight coupons. And there's a number of ways you could do this. Clearly we've articulated the club and the weekly newsletter piece. You can change these weekly, you can change them monthly, you can run them for any sort of length of time, and you can share the coupons page as social media to drive more traffic. But the point here is you can get creative. People are looking for exposure, and it doesn't have to necessarily fit into a specific box.
Yeah, and I'll just add one thing on this slide is one of our affiliates, My Cedarburg Online, has done something that is new to us. It's called a membership program, and he basically, this is not a new concept, just new to us. We haven't seen any of our affiliates try this before, but it looks like he's having a good go at it. And it's basically a club that people register for on a recurring basis, and they get all sorts of things from local businesses. An example, like a free drink at a restaurant when you come and visit. Other kind of swag that businesses donate. I don't know exactly how he's running this, but it's basically $8 a month to register, and you become a member of the thing. And he's putting a whole spin about, this is about the community. We're going out and getting local community businesses to, participate, and you're helping support a local news site, which is a big thing these days. In terms of the value of this, obviously, is just it's very similar to a banner ad in many sense. You're helping them get more customers in their door. So you don't have to do all three of these. You can do one, you can do other, you can combine them. But the idea is if someone says, hey, I have this coupon I'd like to promote or a deal I'd like to promote, you don't have to say, no, I can't help you with that. You have options, even though there's nothing particularly built into the system at this time for handling coupons more natively. It looks like we have a question, perhaps.
Yeah, so Tom asked about how we handle this on the site. So yeah, basically you can load, the easiest option is to load an image file of coupons. So whether it's an actual coupon with, a scannable code, or whether it's just something that would appear and they can absolutely print it out and they can take it in and redeem it in the business. So obviously, just like a coupon in print or somewhere else, you'd want to have the necessary on the printable coupon as far as redemption and limitations and duration and so forth. But you can keep it quite simple. Actually, it doesn't have to be more complicated than that. So talking about websites here, obviously we're a little vested in this, in that we're building the Impact Marketing Suite as sort of the next generation of local business website, but we're doing it because there's a need here. There's still research out that shows 53% of local businesses don't have a website, which I think is sort of a shockingly high number in this day and age. But even of those that do have a website, now these are me making up numbers, but at least 50% of the sites I see from local businesses are bad. They're ugly, they're unprofessional, they're poorly organized, they don't work on my phone at all, so they're ineffective. And of the remaining 25%, while many look good, they're not really a part of their marketing efforts. And so they're not doing anything other than providing basically a phone number. So what you're able to do is deliver a value to your advertisers and prospects by offering to solve this problem in a real way. Now, obviously, Locable is providing a solution that is going to actually tie into your directory listing as a publisher and do some other real benefits for you when a business implements it. But even in the near term, we pay a 20% finder's fee. So should you go out and have these conversations, whether you sell it or just the relationship, we're happy to take it from there. And, great opportunities come from a lot of different places. Literally an hour ago, I called a business who had created a directory listing on our local publisher here where we live. We were notified via email, as you all should be when someone creates a directory listing. And they're not an advertiser. So I picked up the phone and called and introduced myself, asked if I could answer any questions about the listing, about installing the customer reviews widget. And I mentioned, by the way, I happened to look at their website and noticed it wasn't the most effective website I've ever seen. I didn't mention that part to them, but I did mention that we've got this great new program, and what it entails at the moment is a $1,000 one-time fee, and it's a website for life. It's part of a pilot that we're running. Well, it was, wow, that was a great deal. She started by telling me, we've got a website, and as we talked for a moment, she changed from, we have a website to, oh yeah, I guess we don't really do anything with it, and oh, by the way, will it help me rank higher in Google? The answer to that, of course, is yes, albeit a bit more complicated in detail. There are really countless opportunities, and when you ask the question or listen to what people are saying, you can solve problems that you may not even be aware of that you can address for them.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of impress on you guys a little bit more, is even though this is a bit of a self-promotional slide, is when you're out talking to advertisers, you have the opportunity to kind of solve more than just the advertising part of the equation. And when you, as you'll see in a little bit, we're going to go through some stats from BIA Kelsey that kind of outline the fact that, the website is becoming a more integral part of the ecosystem. It's becoming a, something that businesses are spending more money on just to have a presence online. You have the ability to step in and not only help them with that, but then leverage that into what you're already doing. You become so indispensable to them that, they're never going to go away from you. And that's what we're talking about with relationship building here. You have this opportunity, and that's why your value proposition of selling websites is such a big opportunity for you. I think that, I know that the gut reaction sometimes is to be like, well, I don't really know anything about web design. I don't really know how to talk about it. So, I don't want to go out and sell it. But in reality, if you can get to the root of their problem. Hey, I need more customers. I know my website's important, but I have no idea how to update it. And if you can help them with that, you don't need to know the details of it. I know that sounds a little uncomfortable to some of the sales folks on the call, but it's the truth of the matter. You already have a relationship. They trust what you do, and they will trust that you know what you're talking about, even if you don't actually know the details of it. So don't be afraid to be talking about this in every conversation you have, even if it's not about the Impact Marketing Suite, although we obviously prefer if you would prop up our technology a little bit. But even if it's your own thing, you should be offering this service in any case. So bringing it all together, it's really about creating value. And I want to do a little exercise here. And if you guys can imagine me sitting in front of my computer, I've got my hands up, and I'm going to start counting the number of times. I'm going to tell you a little story. I'm going to count the number of times that there's an impression for the advertiser with your audience. And I'd hope that you can hold up your hands and kind of count along with me as I go. So for argument's sake, let's say, I pick up the local magazine here, and I'm flipping through the pages, and I find a story I like. I start reading it, and at the end of the story, there's a call to action at the bottom that says, go online for landscaping tips from Ryan Frisch. I'm Ryan Frisch. I'm the business owner. That's impression number one, right? The reader goes on to the website, reads that article. They happen to see your banner ad in the sidebar. That's impression number two. A little bit later on, I get to the bottom of that article. I see that, hey, I really like this article. I'm going to sign up for the newsletter. A week later, I get the first newsletter, or weekly newsletter in the mail, and it's got a bunch of featured events at the top. And one of those events happens to be that I'm holding a local seminar about landscaping. That's impression number three. That was a free event. I didn't have to do much for it. The publisher goes ahead and shares that on Facebook. I'm sitting on my couch late at night flipping through my news feed. I see a reminder that, hey, this article is there. That's impression number four. And you can kind of see where I'm going with this on and on and on. I may get an email later on or see something on Facebook about another article completely unrelated to landscaping, but I go to the website and click to read that article, and again, I see your banner ad. That's impression number five. And then maybe, for argument's sake, let's say when the next issue comes out, it shows up in my mailbox, and I'm flipping through, and I see a traditional print ad. That's impression number six. I'm giving you, very specific sets of examples here, but the point really is the value that you can create as a publisher by integrating all these different parts is really the value that you're giving to the advertiser. For those of you that have heard the marketing rule of 7, it's a reminder that your buyers need to see or hear your message at least 7 times before you buy. Now, I didn't get quite to 7, and, that number is a little bit, you can take it as is, but the point is the more you get your message across, the better. And there's intelligent ways to put these campaigns together. And that is your responsibility as a publisher to kind of educate them on that kind of stuff.
And, I'll add that this is one of the reasons as well that it's useful to share the same sort of content through multiple channels. The first time someone sees your content doesn't mean they're going to take action. And if you're able to share it in print and online, and you're able to send emails and post it to social media, sometimes more than one, that's important. A question came in from Tom about when's a good time to post. Well, there's a lot to it, and we've written blog posts about some of the changes at Facebook. I mean, first and foremost, post when people are awake. And using Facebook, you can check your insights to see what time the majority of your fans happen to be on Facebook. The second thing, post them too close together. I wouldn't ever squeeze them any closer than 3 hours together unless there's a good reason to do it, like breaking news or something important, because what happens is there's a half-life to a post. So I post something, it goes out, it's still going, but if you post something new, it kind of squashes that. So that's important. As far as the timeliness of you shared at Facebook relative to when it was published on your website, aside from news, which has a time component, I don't think it's incredibly important to have any specific rule of thumb. You may find, and you should do some testing around this, pardon me, if I post an article about home and garden, does it work better in the morning, in the afternoon, perhaps on the weekend? And you can schedule out posts on Facebook, so you need to use that to your advantage to see on reach. We will regularly dig into the archives from 2 years ago, share stuff to Facebook just to, recirculate a little traffic. And sometimes it's a profile of a person or a business or something. I mean, it's still interesting today, even if it's dated, and we'll call it, from the archives, and we'll share it to Facebook. And so, there's no hard and fast rule, but definitely post things, at a time where people will see it in a way that you're asking a question or eliciting some feedback, whether it's a text response or even an image. The more interaction you get on your post, which includes likes, clicks, images, shares, whatever, the more of that you get, the more people will see it. Earlier, Ryan shared, 2,200 impressions on a post. It was completely organic. We didn't pay for that. It was seen by that many people because so many people were clicking to read the article and like it and so forth. Average post will see less than 5% of your fan base. So you need to take action and be proactive about how you phrase, what images you use, all of that to really get the most reach possible. By the way, everything you share should have an image. If you share content from your site, it'll pull it in from the site because we built it to play nice with Facebook. You can always override that, or if it's just a link, you can inject your image if you'd like. All right, so we're sort of stat geeks here, and we like BIA Kelsey. We're just doing the research project with Burrell, and when we get the results from that, we'll share it. But BIA Kelsey just did some interesting research into local businesses. They call it small and medium-sized businesses from 1 to 99 employees. And what they've seen is that the spending for local business websites and presence, which includes Yelp, it includes CitySearch, it includes the directory, it includes all of these things which identify who you are in a digital way, is growing dramatically. So much so that businesses are spending a good deal more on that than on advertising. So let that sink in for a minute. A business is spending, on average, more on their website and their other businesses than they are spending on advertising. Which means if you're only going after the part of the pie designated as advertising, you're leaving more than 50% of that out there. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, while small businesses are still not terribly savvy, they are starting to view, wow, okay, fragmented. There's lots of profiles, there's lots of work. How can I tie this together? Which is really a smart thing. You can position yourself at the center of that, both with your advertising campaign, but also by providing solutions around their properties themselves. And promotions and whatnot are growing in a big way. This is no surprise. Groupon grew quickly for good reason. People like promotions. They feel less expensive up front, albeit often more expensive in the long run. But the point here is delivering unique solutions to get the word out there is really valuable. And of course, social media is no viewed as optional. 55% of businesses have a Facebook page. 20% of businesses have actually done paid posts on Facebook. So there's some really interesting ramifications of that as it comes to your business.
Yeah, I just want to add that I think what we want you to take away from that slide is that everything we've been talking about is about pulling all of this stuff together, right? That's where the value creation comes in for your advertisers. And as we flip to the next slide, and I'll let Brian kind of jump in here, but I will say up front is when things exist in a silo, you miss the opportunity to provide real value for your advertisers. We see several salespeople go out and they only try to sell banner ads, and then when they fill up all those slots, they go on to the next thing, and they only try to sell out all the email newsletter sponsorships. And then when that's done, they go to the next thing and they try to sell social promotions. And while, yeah, you're going to make some money, you're missing the long-term potential. The value you generate out of that is about the relationship, helping them do things that they can't otherwise do themselves. So your responsibility as an educator, and I'll let Brian kind of jump in here and kind of finish this slide off.
You know, I'm writing a blog post on this, so forgive me. It's sort of near and dear to my heart at the moment. I was playing golf this weekend in a men's club tournament, and I was playing with the guy who's a surgeon, and he asked me what I do, so I explained. And I mentioned, we help businesses who have bad websites not be so bad and get more out of it and whatever. He said, yeah, that's where we're at, but, it's free, so no big deal. And I looked at him and I said, well, that's not right at all. It's not free. There's a cost associated with having a poor web presence. How many new clients would a surgeon need to get to pay for even the most expensive of websites and related? Probably like half a client, a year. And so the point to this is there's real costs associated with free. I'm a big analogy guy, so if you break a bone, the free choice is to not go see the doctor. But that doesn't mean there's no cost. Now, in that case, there's not necessarily a financial cost. It might just be that I'm in significant pain and it heals incorrectly and I can't use my well, not necessarily a financial cost, but there's a cost to me. Or maybe it gets infected and it was worse than I thought, and I have to go to the emergency room, and now it costs 10 times as much in dollars. So there's examples from everyday life, but in the business sense, the free choice would be to not buy ads, to just use social media. Except, you know what? Social media is time consuming, and that has a cost because I have something else that would benefit my business. And this whole thing is, it might not be very expensive to use social media from a payment perspective, but if no customers walk in my door, boy, that feels real expensive, and that's where you come in. You can sell them access to an audience who wants their services but might not be thinking about it, or might be thinking about a competitor, or just simply wouldn't otherwise buy. At that point, the fee that they pay you for advertising is far less expensive than free. And so I really hope that you embrace some of these things as an opportunity to share with them, to tell people that they are wrong. And so clearly you want to use tact in doing this, but to help them understand where they're misinformed and to help them reconsider or rather consider the new information will really help go a long way in driving more revenue and, frankly, solidifying your core business, whether that is print first or digital first. You want to be able to deliver real value and help people understand what that is. Tying together print, digital, social, email, presence, all of that is about delivering unique value. So, as we wrap up this slide, keep in mind people pay you for access to your audience and also your expertise, because they're swinging hammers and flipping burgers and sweeping floors and doing whatever they do. You're in the marketing business. They're not, by and large. So you can come in and deliver a lot of value. With that, we're through the slides we wanted to cover. What else can we address for you? What else can we clarify? What are real life challenges you're facing or opportunities you see that we can help with?